Hello to all my online learners. This is Professor Gomez Nieto, and welcome to this pre-recorded lecture for your convenience. I understand some of you couldn't be in class today for whatever reason. This is just an easy way for you to catch up if you are just trying to relearn something or if we didn't hit anything in class. Any questions, please feel free to email me, talk to me after whenever you get the chance. Otherwise, let's get back into learning about ancient history, my favorite topic. So to begin with, sorry about that, we are beginning our lesson on ancient Rome. This was my thesis in college. This was a large part of my history study. So I'm sorry if I go into way too much detail about this stuff, but let's jump into it. So in class, I asked the students who were Romulus and Remus and to imagine what comes to mind when you hear the phrase Rome or Roman Empire or Roman Republic. Just to think about that, but specifically I was asking them kind of to look up and figure out who Romulus and Remus were. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, but since this is a recording, you can just pause and wait it out. I'm going to move on from here and jump straight into the lesson portion. So here's the timeline of events. We're starting out with Romulus and Remus, who were the founding brothers of Rome. They are the ones who found the city, do all the fun stuff. There's a founding myth to it. I encourage you to go and look it up because I have a limited amount of time here, obviously, so I can't give you the whole story. But to simply summarize, Romulus and Remus are two brothers descended from a king who himself is descended from a Trojan, supposedly. Obviously, there's very little true historical evidence. Livy writes some stuff. He's a historian, trusted source, primary source, but we don't know if that's 100% true. So moving on from there, we have the incorporation of the Roman Republic, the Gauls, the First and Second Punic Wars against Carthage, the beginning of the Macedonian Wars and Roman expeditions into Greece, and the Gracchi brothers' attempted reform. So looking at the Roman kingdom and just prior to the Roman Republic, we have the founding of Rome by Remus after he kills Romulus. Story goes, they enter the Tiber River and the seven hills of Rome. They're competing over which hill they want to build the city on. Romulus says, I'm going to build it on the Palatine Hill. He draws a line around the hill and says, this is the walls of Rome. Anyone who crosses it shall die. Remus jumps over the line and Romulus kills him. So we have brothers killing brothers, founding of Rome, beginning of this real martial culture. You also had Rome starts to slowly expand. There's a story about this city nearby ruled over by the Sabines. Rome only has men at this time, so they go out and they kidnap all of them, bringing them back. And it starts a war between the two, but the women get involved and stop the war because they don't want their fathers killing their new husbands. It's a whole complicated mess that we're not going to touch too much with a 10-foot pole. So just know there's a lot of interesting mythology here. The history of it really begins in 509 BC with the overthrow of Tarquin the Proud and the rise of the Roman Republic. Roman Republic begins the process of expanding north and southward across the entire peninsula. They come into contact with the Greeks and pretty much are enamored with their culture. They just love the Greeks and they start moving north and conquering more of the Etruscan territories. But just think of them right now as expanding outwards, trying to keep themselves safe. The Roman army at this time is small. It is mainly run by conscripted peasant farmers who go out, similar to like we learned about the hoplites and stuff. They are going out. They're not really professional, but they are trained soldiers. They go on campaign for a season, come back from their land. This training, need for land and stuff for you to be a soldier will play into later events. Because soon we're going to get to the Punic Wars, which change everything. But this slow kind of campaigning continues throughout most of 509 all the way up until about the 2nd century BC. They interact with the Gauls. Gauls are able to just kick the Roman military's rear end at that point, and the Gauls then come in and sack Rome. Rome only finds out because according to legend, there's a duck that warns them. He doesn't speak, he just honks, and that scares the Romans, and they're able to eventually get them out of the city. But the Gauls wreak havoc, and it scars the Romans for life. It is possible that the reason the Romans hate the Gauls and hate them so much is because of this sacking. So historians speculate. Eventually, though, Rome starts to expand southward and attempts to conquer Sicily. Sicily at this time is run primarily by the Greeks in Syracuse on the coast over here, the eastern coast, and on the western coast is the city of Carthage here in Tunisia, founded by our friends, the Phoenicians. It's the last and the greatest Phoenician city. It's its own civilization, more or less, but it is expanding a trade empire throughout here, and most of these islands here are controlled by the Carthaginians. Rome wants to take control of that land, so there's a dispute over here in the very, very boot of Italy, and yeah, a war breaks out between the two of them. The First Punic War is an extremely bloody affair for the Romans because they have no naval capabilities, which is the primary way in which the Carthaginians fight. So Rome loses 3 whole fleets of maybe like 200 ships each before they're finally able to beat the Carthaginians after they get pinned down here in a land and sea battle. That ends the First Punic War. Rome takes control of Sicily and most of the island holdings here. Carthage turns to its greatest general and his son's name is Hannibal. He'll be important in a couple of minutes, but they begin to expand and reestablish themselves over here in Carthage, at New Carthage, or Carthago Nova, and begin conquering into Iberia. Rome expands north along the coast here and attempts to check the Carthaginians, because now Carthage is back to its full strength as before, and that freaks the Romans out because they're like, they're threatening us again. It's also that Hannibal Barca has sworn vengeance against the Romans, so he's taking every opportunity he can to just poke at them, you know, the way that a bully would be poking at somebody else just to provoke them. This starts a war between Carthage and Rome. Hannibal leads an army across the Alps with elephants into Italy in an attempt to capture Rome and bring the fighting here. At the Battle of Cannae, he annihilates a Roman legion, which is their army. But one man named Scipio is able to escape along with a few others, and he goes to Spain, fights Hannibal's brother, and wins, knocking them out there. And eventually they meet at the plains here in Carthage, in Tunisia, and at the Battle of Zama, Hannibal is defeated, and Rome takes over all their possessions, and Carthage is essentially made a rump state, meaning it's no longer powerful. It is tiny, it is small, it's no longer a factor in the Mediterranean. Rome is now the sole superpower. But during his time in Italy, Hannibal made some allies, specifically the king of Macedon. Now this is, if I remember correctly at this time, it is Philip IV, a successor king to Alexander. He's not directly related, but Macedon is founded by Philip II, Alexander's father. And yeah, we went over that last lecture, last class, last unit. So refer to your notes on that. But now we start seeing Rome fighting against the Macedonians and beginning to expand its influence into Greece proper. Now, the Greeks had always been an expanding culture, remember. So as we learned, southern Italy was called Magna Graecia, meaning greater Rome, greater Greece, by historians and by Greeks themselves. So there was a lot of Greek influence there. The Romans fell in love with Greek culture and basically began to subsume it while conquering it and essentially trying to create a peace in their backyard because they feel like this is they're just trying to like take over and do it's a very complicated political system, but eventually it will result in Rome taking over all of Greece. But the Greek culture then becomes so interlinked with Rome that for years, many of what we would call Greece called themselves Romioi or Romans, because that was the only uniting culture they had. Because as we've learned from last class, classical Greece and Greece itself is a construct of modern history. It is not a part of ancient culture. So with all this campaigning made by these citizen soldiers who were farming their land, it eventually results in this big disparity where rich people are taking over and founding these large things called latifundia, which are big, big mega farms. Think Bonanza farms in North Dakota. And this is causing a massive power disparity because you have poor people now in Rome who can't farm. You have these huge power imbalances, and the Gracchi brothers come in. Now, they attempt to rebalance it through reform, but this fails. Eventually, this leads to political violence being entered into the Roman political system. What does that mean? Well, it basically is what it is. The mob begins to become more of a part of the Republican tradition, and it starts to corrupt the system. So the wheels are starting to fall off the wagon here. That was my bad, but I'm not going to go too much into the Gracchi brothers because that is going to be your homework tonight, or your makeup assignment or whatever. I have found 5 videos made by Extra Credits, which here they're called Extra History, that go great into detail about the Gracchi brothers. In the next lecture, we'll talk about the Roman Republic and the traditions that were founded during that time. If you want some bonus points, which are always available, there's a two-question quiz on Gracchus the Elder, their father, and there's a portion on lies. So together, depending on how generous I'm feeling, I could give you between 5 to 6 bonus points. So it could count as a missing homework assignment if you've missed any. Make sure to get the 10-question homework done. Make sure to watch the videos. I will be referencing some of the facts in there, some of the information in the next assignments and next lecture. But as always, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, concerns about anything, I'm more than willing to sit down and Zoom with you or just talk to try and help you. And when you get time, please also, as always, the exit slip, post 1 question and answer 2 in the course blog on the Google Classroom. I know this was a lot of information. I know I spoke very quickly, but this is as condensed a topic as we can go into. And Rome is such a big part of American history and stuff through Enlightenment thinking and other philosophies that came up during the 1800s that I want to make sure you have a good base going into the future, so that way you can understand, okay, this is what the thinking was that led us to what we have today, and then form your own conclusions. Remember, critical thinking is one of the most important things for any job and anything in the future. All right, that concludes my lecture. Have a good day. I hope to see you all in class. If anyone has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will be personally reaching out to some of you. Remember, it's not because you're in trouble, it's just because I like talking to you guys. I like to keep tabs on you, just to make sure you're okay. All right, have a good day.